Hello, dear rock star. I'm so lucky to get to sit and talk to all these inspiring rock stars. And today, Jeanette's with us. I'm so excited you came over.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. Well, not everyone knows about Jay's Everyday Fashion or what you've been up to. Give us a little context and tell us about your current venture, where you're at now.
Absolutely. Jay's Everyday Fashion is a fashion blog. I've been doing it for 6 years.
Wow.
Full-time for almost 4 years now. And it's really just, a little corner of the internet that is all about fashion inspiration that anyone can do. So pretty much everything's under $100. I really like, realistic imagery, no Photoshop. I have a no Photoshop promise. And just, things that we can all use hopefully and wear. Gives you ideas on outfits and good, budget finds and things like that.
So you started 6 years ago.
Yes.
Today, how many page views, to give us some idea of how
Sure.
many people are being impacted?
Yeah, so I have an annual audience of a little over 1 million people. It's like 1.25 million.
Yeah, so it's not
Yeah.
this little corner of the internet anymore.
Well, it kind of is. I always keep it in perspective because, there are a handful of blogs that have, millions and millions upon millions. So it's in some ways it is small. It's probably medium.
Medium. So lead us
Yes.
back, take us back like 6 years ago.
Sure.
Tell us the story about how you got started.
Yeah, so, I really don't have an entrepreneurial bone in my body. Had no idea it would be a business. I just was sitting in my kitchen one day, a little bored, and I was like, heard of this idea of blogging, and I thought, well, this is pretty cool because I love fashion magazines. I love reading Vogue and things like that, but it's all fantasy for the most part.
Right.
It's like women in ball gowns on their yachts, and it's just not for me.
Right.
It's not for me real life wise. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if there was someone posting like their outfits that were just really, anybody could wear it. And, I think I'm going to start doing that. I think it would be really fun. And,
Yeah.
There's like a reality TV aspect where it's kind of voyeuristic. And then
I'm seeing somebody else.
Yeah. And because I'm very, I just will post anything. I'll post outfit fails, things I order that don't fit. I'm just even still, I share that stuff. So I thought it'd be just kind of cool to see somebody just, posting this kind of thing. I know I would love to read that, so I'm just going to start a Facebook page, is where I started, and see what happens. And it caught on so fast. Facebook was very different 6 years ago, so the organic way that people could find you, and so it just, really blew up overnight because people were finding it and loving it.
And what were you doing initially?
I was posting much like I am now. Obviously, the photography and things have improved greatly, but
Were you taking selfies of yourself? Or
I was literally setting up a point and shoot on like a dresser drawer and putting on like a 7-second timer and getting into place.
And running over there and saying,
exactly, and this is my outfit. So I did that actually for years. I started to use a tripod, but I would like use a 7-second timer and run into place.
It.
So some of them were really funny because I'd be like, you could kind of tell I wasn't quite there yet, and I'd be like, oh, that's good enough, and and post it. So yeah.
Was the $100 price point always a part of this story?
It is. It's kind of, that's just a nice round number, but I actually have had the same clothing budget for, I don't know, like 8 or 9 years. It's $250 a month, which is a lot of money in some ways. And then you think about the kind of money you see usually in fashion magazines, and it's like nothing.
Right.
So
the idea that you could get an outfit for $100 for many people is amazing. Right?
Yeah.
In what I'm calling the fashion world, right?
Right, exactly. So, and that was the kind of idea, it was to open up this whole new maybe genre within the fashion world that's just much more reality based. And it's what I say, when your feet hit the ground in the morning, what are you going to put on your body to conduct your day? It's like that's what I think of when I think of everyday fashion is that concept of what am I going to wear today versus this amazing, wonderful, beautiful fantasy fashion that's usually in magazines.
So you started with the Facebook page.
Yes.
It started taking off rapidly.
Yes.
Tell us a little more about the key milestones, and were you working a job or what was going on there?
Yeah, so I was working in marketing, actually in public television, and I knew that I was getting laid off eventually, so our boss was awesome about letting us know it was during the recession.
Preparing
and
you
it
for
was,
the...
Yeah, so I think that's probably partly what motivated me. I kind of thought, hey, this would be cool to have on my resume. I never again thought it would be an actual business itself. But I think I just was kind of itching to create, you know, and it was built out of that. But about, I can't even remember, 6 to 8 months after starting it, I was laid off, like I knew I was going to be. But what surprised me, I couldn't find another job. So the economy was just doing so badly that I couldn't even find jobs to apply to, actually. It was just dead out there. So after unemployment ran out and I just felt like I had no options at that point, a couple of people said to me, you know, your blog's going really well, you should turn it into a business. And I just was like, hold the phone? What does that even mean?
Hold the phone?
You know, I'm like, what? What do you mean make money from a blog? Like, this is unheard of. And, you know, this is like 2011. So I'm like, okay, so I just start going to blogger conferences, Googling how to make money from a blog. Pretty much tried 10 or 15 methods. I signed up for everything, you know, and then kind of found the 2 or 3 that were working really well for me and started focusing all my energy on that. And within a year of starting those methods, because it took me a while to figure out how to use it and, you know, get really good, about a year after starting that, I was making 5 times what I was as a marketing manager. It
Girlfriend!
really was like, what is happening to my life? Like, I didn't even think this was possible at all. And then, yeah, it was really crazy.
For the girl that says she doesn't have an entrepreneur bone in her body.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, I always joke I was like forced into entrepreneurism because it was like, you have to pay your rent, figure it out, you know, you don't have a job, you don't have unemployment, you don't have, you know, anyone supporting you, like, it's time. So it's crazy. I feel like maybe I just work well under pressure because I was motivated to figure it out, so.
Well, I want to explore that a little deeper in a minute, but you said there were 2 or 3 things you landed on that helped you monetize. What were those?
Yeah, so the biggest one for me was a tool called ShopStyle, and it's basically affiliate links, which affiliate links make the internet go round. Pretty much if you're clicking on anything, anywhere, someone is getting credit for that.
Right.
And a lot of times it's not even, you don't even know who's getting credit for it. Like you click on an ad and you don't realize who put it there, and they're, you know, making basically a few pennies either from the traffic of you clicking or commission on the sales.
Right.
ShopStyle is predominantly a PPC or pay-per-click, and so it's a mostly traffic-based affiliate program, which I really like. That did really well for me. And then kind of the other piece of the puzzle is sponsorships.
Okay.
Which has changed drastically as the industry has changed. The blogging industry has changed over, you know, the last 5 or 6 years.
Give us an example of like one of your early sponsors and then what you're doing now in the area of sponsors, because to show the difference, how it's changed.
So, oh gosh, I can't even. It's so much has changed.
When you first started, what? It was a banner ad or something?
Well, I still do banner ads, but they're not as popular, and for good reason, because they don't perform as well as more intimate things. You know, in the beginning, it was definitely less involved, so it might be, you know, I remember a long time ago working with The Gap, and I think I styled a pair of mint jeans like 5 different ways. And there wasn't a lot of instructions, and now I still feel very autonomous when I do sponsorships. I mean, they want you to be creative,
right?
But there's usually a contract, and it will say, we want you to do this many social posts, and it's a lot more involved, because I think as the blogging relationship furthered with bloggers and these great companies, they started to realize we need to put more in writing, you know, so it's a little more formalized. But
it's a whole package of responsibilities.
It is.
Did you guys go out and do something for Ford?
We did.
Now that was a big sponsorship. Right?
No, actually, it was just a press trip. No, I know it's hard to tell sometimes.
Right.
It was funny because on that post, I actually didn't put any disclosure because it wasn't sponsored, and a bunch of people called me out on it, and I realized I actually needed disclosure to say that it wasn't paid.
Right.
Because it's the same thing. It's disclosure means being, you know, transparent about what's going on and what you're reading. So
affiliate.
It was just a fun thing that we did.
Okay, affiliate links and sponsorships. And was there something else?
Yeah, so affiliate links, sponsorships are by far the biggest. And then there's like banner ads. A banner network is usually the way you do it, where you just insert some code and then it fills in based on what the user's looking at.
Yeah.
So if you searched a gas station earlier, it will show up, or you were looking for travel, then
So
that's
is
what
that
you see.
retargeting?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah,
Kinda
it's like a whole other world I don't even
no.
understand, but yeah.
Tell us a little bit about a couple inflection points where your business or your venture really changed.
Absolutely. I would say one of them for me, looking back, was being involved in a contest on Lauren Conrad's blog for the best fashion blog in America, and I took second place.
Wow.
And that is really the only time. I wouldn't say it was a jump in readership, but it wasn't overwhelmingly huge, but it was one of the only things that I really saw kind of that a jump at all. You know, usually it's just very steady. And it's interesting too because at the time, you know, I wouldn't say I was really that disappointed in coming in second place, but I've realized like how much of a win that is to even be involved in something like that.
Yeah.
Because that readership jumped and it pretty much stayed after that point too. Because I always say, you know, it's half the battle getting somebody to your site, but then you've got to capture them and want their attention and want them to come back. So,
Right.
yeah.
So that was a key point, that contest.
Yeah.
Like you
And
stepping
that was
out.
very early on, yeah.
Anything else?
I mean, it's tough because, you know, I always say that success feels like a million little steps that are going nowhere. And then you look behind you and you're like, I've just scaled a mountain. I had no idea. Because it seems very just like daily life. You know what I mean? So it's hard. There's actually not that many major points.
That's such a great answer. Success feels like a million little steps
That
going,
you're going
nowhere.
nowhere. You're just like little tiny, and then you look back and you're like, wow, that really just went really far and I have no idea.
Just
Yeah.
showing up daily.
Yeah, so it's really, there haven't been that many leaps. It's just been a lot of showing up over and over again and being consistent. And
What kind of showing up? Give us some idea what kind of showing up and time and posts in those early years.
Yeah.
And now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of continuing to create content even if you feel like nobody's listening. I mean, I know I sound absolutely crazy saying this, but sometimes it feels like no one's there. You know,
Right.
like
and you
nobody's
have a
home.
million people, so I mean, I
Yeah.
certainly feel that because I don't have
Right, but I also understand, I guess what I'm saying is like in the beginning, there really was no one there, or there was like a few people in week one, right? But it feels no different now for the most part. You know what I mean? So it's like, and there are certain days where I'll write something that really resonates with people and it gets a lot of activity and I feel it's great because then we have a conversation and I feel like I'm talking to people, but I'm very social. So I think I really like that aspect. Like a lot of blogging is very one way, but I want to hear your story too. So I love it when people get in touch with me in any way, email, however they want to talk to me and share their story. I love it. But it just doesn't feel that different, I guess. I think
So
people
how
assume it's going to feel like a million people are reading, but it doesn't necessarily, you know?
Well, maybe that's some of your success. Like, do you feel like you just stay true to, I mean, what's
Absolutely, yeah.
what's your advice to those of us that are out writing and creating content?
Just never compromise and let somebody take you off your mission statement. I mean, and I'm not perfect. I feel like I've been tempted to go down that road and I've probably done things that, you know, I felt a little icky about later, especially in the beginning when I was first figuring out sponsorships. You know, thankfully I didn't ever do like a hemorrhoid commercial. I didn't go that far down the path. But
Doesn't
but
quite
we all
match
know,
with
but we all
affordable
know
fashion,
people
everyday
that
fashion.
have done that, right?
Right.
That went off their path and you feel like, that doesn't really match. And it's tempting, but it's just never worth the long-term health of what you're trying to create. And you just feel gross about it. It's just not fun. You know, a sponsorship should feel like amazing. Like I know people automatically assume it's to make money, which of course we have bills. I get it. But when I do a sponsorship, it's a creative outlet for me. I get very inspired by, you know, they'll pitch an idea to me and I'm like, oh, this is so fun and this is such a cute idea and let's totally, you know, execute this together. And it's enjoyable for me, you know?
It's coming together and you see the value for your reader.
Absolutely.
And for
Yeah.
this other venture.
Absolutely. Yeah, but I think that can be really difficult for some people to balance that and to not, you know, kind of give away a piece of their brand in the process. But I come from marketing, so I know that's probably partly why, because I'm used to that kind of conversation. But
How much content do you put out? Did you put out, and how much do you put out now?
way too much, Pam.
We want to hear this.
I posted 7 days a week for 4.5 years.
Stop.
And literally one day was just like, I cannot do this anymore. I have to take a day off. And so I do 6 days a week now, which I think I'm going to go down from that.
And
because
what does a day of content look like for you?
It's a blog post and usually at least one social post that supports the blog post.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, but that takes the whole day's work right there just to do that. And I have a lot of other things going on. I have TV appearances and speaking engagements. And I mean, I'm very busy on top of what you actually read on the blog.
Right.
So, and then of course having a life, right?
Right.
and exercising and, you know, everything else. But, yeah, so it's a lot of content. But what's interesting is, you know, in the beginning, I wasn't as focused on doing as quality of content. And I don't mean that it was still good, but now I take a lot longer to do everything that I'm doing, to do the photos. The photography has improved immensely. And so I think it makes sense to go down in quantity so that you get better quality. And that's just kind of the way I've, you know, been going for a while.
And your major social outlets are?
Right now, Facebook and Instagram are definitely my top two.
Okay.
I've always been a huge Facebook fan. They changed their algorithms last summer. Mark Zuckerberg, if you're watching this, please call me.
It's changed your business?
Oh, absolutely. I had to completely rethink and readjust, which at the time was really frustrating. You know, I had a good day where I just cried, actually, and my husband, who works with me on the blog, was like, you know, he's the sweetest man ever, do something about it. And I'm like, I will, but I just need a second because this is really frustrating.
Having to break down, and then I'm going to break through.
I'm having let's just talk about how much this stinks right now, and then we'll figure it out tomorrow, which we did. And it actually, I'm very much a silver lining person from the first moment. I said, there's going to be a silver lining to this.
So what have you done differently in Facebook now to help you?
Well, that's the thing, is basically not relying on Facebook so much because I don't own Facebook.
Yes.
So it's been...
Let's put some white space around that.
Seriously. You do not own Facebook or any of your social channels. I mean, sometimes they get deleted, like hacked or on accident, or, I mean, there's so many things that happen. So instead of focusing so much on that, you know, we started focusing on building my email list, just something I never spent any time or attention on, which I'm, you know, almost kicking myself, but it is what it is. And then the other thing that came from it was actually this beautiful, like, creative awakening almost, because I think I was so just doing the same thing over and over again, and I knew what worked, and I would just keep doing the same thing. Yeah. And I was kind of in a just sort of kind of lackadaisical place. And when that happened, I suddenly felt like I had the freedom to just be really creative. And that's when there was a huge change in photography, purely out of just creative joy. You know, it was like, let's just try something different. And I felt free to do that, because it was almost like the method and showing up every day, like I felt kind of chained to it for some reason. I didn't feel free to like break out and do something different. So
your own blog and email, your own channels now, focusing more on those?
Absolutely, yeah.
So I am fascinated by the person you are, probably much more than even your fashion blog. I mean, because I think your fashion blog is cool, but I really love the integrity you live with. And so I want to get into this whole why. You know, when you think about your why, that's the fuel for what you're doing. Because you talked about your mission statement for your business, but what's your why in your overall, like?
I feel like there are multiple. I hope that's okay. Because one of them is definitely to impact the fashion industry, or to have this sort of new genre that we were talking about. So to have a place that is realistic and that people feel totally welcome to try all the ideas and things like that, and somewhere where people can get real ideas that they can actually put into practice.
Yeah, this accessibility to fashion, right?
But
it's not only affordable, it's cool,
right?
But I could probably wear it somewhere.
Yeah, and so every time someone says, you just saved me time because I copied this outfit idea with something I already own, I'm like, amazing, that's totally my goal. I think there's also another why, though, that's really just this creative drive. And I'm sure you've read The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, my absolute favorite book. And
I have it in there, like,
yeah.
I go back and read it like
it's
a devotional.
It's like falling apart because it's so,
Him and Jesus, right? Like,
I agree. Yep, Stephen Pressfield and Jesus, really, yeah. No, he says in there, of any activity on earth, ask yourself, if you were the last person on earth, would you still do this? And I would absolutely be still creating crazy outfits and color combinations.
and by the way, man, you're just awesome.
Thank you.
I
Well,
was worried about sitting next to you today.
Nah, I'm easy. He says that, and I think it's so true, though, because it in blogging I found, I liked fashion, but I don't think I realized how creative of a person I was and how much I really enjoyed it, and like turning it into a career and doing so much more with fashion. Just, I love it. I would be doing this no matter what. So that's definitely a why, because I just love it. And then there's the wanting to impact, fashion journalism, wanting to be a great resource for women. So there's a lot of whys.
Yeah. So you wrote an article, and I might like trash the title, but it got this huge engagement. I was watching it about
Fashion and faith. Yes.
Talk to us about this.
Yeah, so that's such a funny article because I had a speaking engagement at a church on a Friday morning, and I speak all the time. It's a style seminar. I give them everywhere. I've literally flown across the country to give these style seminars.
You tell us how to get our act together.
It's like fun how-to, though. You would really, it's really fun because I just crack jokes the whole time, and I think I'm hilarious. I'm really not, but people laugh out of
well, my
pure
kids
pity.
have told me, if other people are laughing, Mom, you're funny. If you're the only one that's laughing, you're not funny.
They usually laugh, but maybe it's because I share really self-deprecating stories about myself and like funny pictures and stuff. But so yeah, I do these style seminars all the time, but I had one at a church with like a group of moms at this huge church just south of Orlando, and I was feeling all this, like, I was like nervous about it, and like I had all this inner turmoil, and I was like motivated to sit down and write this article, and I swear to you, I wrote it in like an hour. Didn't even think about it that much.
A couple of the gems of the article.
The overall gist of the article is, just talking about my earliest years with fashion. And, I grew up in a really conservative household, and for the most part, fashion was just not something that I participated in. I wouldn't say that it was, anyone ever said fashion is bad or don't do it. It just was, we didn't spend money on fashion, and it was kind of seen as a little bit vain and just totally frivolous. Like, there's no reason to participate in it. And so it just wasn't something that I even really thought about until I got to college, and I started experimenting with clothes a little bit then, but it wasn't really until my early 20s that I really started to get into it. But I feel like that there's always some tension there for me. I would probably call it guilt. I don't know if that might be too strong of a word, but there's always this desire to be very responsible with fashion, and whether that means, from a practical standpoint and not wanting to spend a lot of money on it. I will always be super frugal no matter how much money I make. I mean, I'm like, love a $10 pair of jeans, let me tell you. The better the deal, the better.
More attention to you.
I love saving money, and I always will. But there's also this idea of, can I be a person of faith and still be working in fashion and still have this as my passion? Because there are some, thought processes in churches even that shy away from even wearing color, or, being too flashy, or just, spending any money on clothes. Like, all of those things are kind of taboo subjects in some ways. And then you have, on top of that, there's so much great literature going around now about the environment, and clothes can hurt the environment, and there's all these, fair wages issues, and the socially responsible companies are up and coming now, which is awesome. Yeah, there's all these terms and things that are coming up. So how do you, the article was really not super in depth, but it just talked about how do you enjoy fashion, but also be responsible and think about those things.
So talk to us a little bit about that. How have you navigated the faith and who you are and your passion and your giftedness?
I would say it's a daily journey, right? Because I don't have all the answers, you know. I feel like it's one of those things where you really have to just check in with yourself and be like, am I okay with where I'm at? And it's like anything, because, you know, too much of anything is a bad thing, right? So just figuring out where your passions lie. But also, over the years, I think I've definitely gotten more comfortable. I don't know if it's because of my career or with age or, you know, what exactly it is, but I'm just much more confident in feeling like this passion to, you know, mix color combinations and all the things that like really inspire me is part of my soul, and it's put there for a reason, and it's not a sinful thing that's, you know, vain or whatever you want to call it, but it really is an amazing gift. And it's and it, to me, you know, and I'm not saying to the world, I'm saying it's a gift to me because it's just such a cool part of my life now, and I can't imagine life without it. So
Okay, so how do you help women? Hear you. It's pretty clear on like the affordability
Right.
and the everyday piece. How do you help us navigate the responsible piece, this being a good global citizen with the whole issue of fashion?
Absolutely. So there's a few different pieces. You know, my focus has very much been on budget friendly, like you said. And one of the things I do is I've always disclosed what I buy with my budget every month, and talk about what my budget is.
Is the budget really $250?
Yes.
That's just amazing to me. Like, I need to hang out with you more.
It is, and it's different now, and every budget post I do, I include this in there. Obviously, now in these later years in blogging, I'm getting free items all the time, and so some of that is I don't need to spend anymore. I mean,
Right.
It's almost silly, but in the beginning years, even I've always blog about my budget, and I know some people are probably like, why does she always do this? It's so silly, but I want people to know that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah,
And
it's a
encouraging
part of the
people,
story, right?
encouraging people to yeah, have fun with fashion by all means, but be responsible at the same time. So there's, even on the affordability side and financial side, there's a huge practicality that comes with it that I've always been really good at talking about. But now I feel like in the last couple years, you know, all these buzzwords we're talking about with fair wages and the environment and things like that, those things are coming to light, because at least for me, I didn't know those things 6 years ago.
Right.
And so,
In terms of who made your garment.
right, or even where it goes, you know, you think, oh, I'm donating it to Goodwill. Does that mean it's, you know, out there in the, like, what happens to my clothes afterwards, and
Right.
how much is okay to own, and what's like a normal amount, and which is really different for everyone. But so now it's a matter of figuring out all the puzzle pieces. I want it to be affordable still. I need it to satisfy my fashion soul and what I want to be wearing aesthetically, which I think is completely like a real thing that should be respected. But also thinking about ethically, what does this mean when I buy this? You know, what does it mean for fair wage workers and things like that? So finding that perfect intersection, you know, I feel like there's not a ton out there yet.
Right.
If anyone has, you know, more leads, let me know. But
Where do you go
but
for that information on kind of the sourcing and
that's the thing, there's not a lot of information yet, and I feel like, you know, we've kind of seen food kind of come to light in the last few years. I feel like we're going that direction
so
with
the
fashion.
transparency is coming
Absolutely.
to fashion?
It needs, and it needs to be there. And I, you know, if there's a movement happening in that area, I am there, because I think we need more transparency, and we also need more companies that are, you know, maybe socially conscious companies that we can buy from and that are producing the aesthetic things that we want to buy at a good price.
Yeah.
So it's like there's so many things to consider. And you know, I'm not perfect. I don't have all the answers, but I also am very much thinking about it and want to encourage, you know, everyone else to be thinking about it too.
Yeah. So how has faith informed your venture and how you do business?
How is it not? I mean, it's interesting because, you know, Jay's Everyday Fashion is a secular blog. I don't think that it needs, you know, a Bible verse with every outfit necessarily. It's meant to be very practical. It's answering a practical question. But I mean, faith is something that has always shaped, you know, every step for me, and has been there for me, you know, when I needed it. And it's right down to trying to make the most ethical business decisions you can. as far as sponsorships or whatever it is, taxes, just like every little decision you have to make, and being, as ethical as you possibly can, that certainly holds you to another standard, I feel like,
Yeah.
wanting to do good by your faith.
Yeah.
So
When was the time, like from the outside, I think sometimes when we see someone like you, right, it looks like it's just been one big up, you have just shot to the stars, right?
Yeah.
What was the toughest time in this journey?
The toughest time was actually a pretty long period of time. It was a couple years. I'd say probably, gosh, I don't even know what years it was, 2012 to 2014-ish, somewhere in there. I'm not great with dates. But for a couple years, I struggled so much with bullying. I wanted to quit every single day. It really turned me from, I'm literally from a farm in Kansas, and I'm so Midwestern. I love to talk to strangers. I'm like, I'll tell you my life story.
A farm
in like
in
10
Kansas.
seconds. Yeah, I'm like, in 10 seconds, I'm like, let's be best friends. Like, that's how I operate. And I was so upset. I was like totally closed off. I didn't want to go to, conferences anymore.
Tell us a little, what happened on the bullying?
Well, so it's interesting. It's what we do to any public figure. I mean, and bloggers get a lot of it too. I don't really understand it, but I mean, there's people that just live to torment people online. And we're not talking like, I don't like your outfit, because that comes with the territory. We're talking like people harassing like family members that I don't even talk to, and I'm like, how did they even know that I'm related to them? Like, completely made up rumors, like personal rumors that had, I mean, literally no truth. People just make stuff up. Rumors about business practices, or I mean, just everything under the sun. Not at all fair play. We're not talking, I don't like your outfit, because again, that's
Right.
totally normal.
So being attacked online.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And on like a daily basis, which, I mean, it was just horrible, because I'm a very strong, independent woman in some ways, but I'm also a people pleaser, because I love people. I'm very, like I said, I'm open. I'm like
The
super
real deal.
outgoing.
This is you.
Like, I love to host parties all the time at our house. Like, I joke that I want to know every person on the planet before I die. Like, that's my personality. So it was really, really hard to just feel like, what in the world am I doing to these people? Because it's so weird. If you don't like it, don't read it.
Right.
I'm not Taylor Swift, where she's in your face every 10 seconds, whether you want her or not, because she's on commercials and stuff, you know?
You have to come over
You
to
have
my
to come
page.
to my page to read what I'm saying. So if it angers you that much, then don't read it. It's very strange to feel like I'm just putting myself out there, and why would this be the response?
It's so interesting, because Jameson Gavin, we did an interview with him. He was with us with Premium Trash, and I asked him, if you were going to give advice to your younger self, what would you say? And he said, get ready. When you succeed, they'll attack you. And I was just staring at him, because this guy is so mellow, and he's so young.
And he does trash.
Premium Trash. And he said,
But someone attacks that. That's what I'm saying.
So how did you went through it, it was happening. What was the change for you? How'd you get through it, or what'd you?
Well, I got through it out of pure stubbornness, because I refused to quit for that reason.
Yes.
So I thought, I'll quit someday, but I'm not quitting for this reason. Whether it's killing me. I'm, horribly depressed. It's horrible, but I'm not doing it. Like, I'm not going to let them win, basically.
Yeah.
So it was stubbornness, and it was a whole lot of faith, absolutely, a lot of prayer. And, I would just, to get a little spiritual for a moment, I would just cry and be like, God, please take this away from me. And he would I felt like he would always say, absolutely not. You have to learn how to deal with this. Like some mean parent. And I would be like, slam my door. Well, forget you, because that's mean. And, I don't know. But because it is true. There's nothing I can do to change it. I just had to learn how to deal with it.
Right.
And I also, it's an internal thing, but I also had to take steps. And that's really important to getting bullies off of you, because I had never experienced bullying in my life, which is also why I was so sensitive to it. I mean,
so
nothing.
What are the steps you take when
you
you
put
get
up boundaries?
Bullying?
You put up boundaries, and they look different for everyone. But for me, it was adding comment moderation to my blog.
Yeah.
it was
if you're
much
saying
harder.
crap, you're not
absolutely.
your stuff
it was
isn't going to get shown.
because actually, you know what people were doing? They were logging in and commenting and acting like they were a bunch of different people having a conversation. So someone would make up a story. You know, I saw Jay hitting a child, and then someone would be like, "Oh, I was there too," and then the third person, but it was all the same person, and I wouldn't realize that until later because I actually figured out how you can figure that out, like, you know, behind the scenes, and. So it's like that kind of stupid stuff, like has nothing to do with fashion. Literally, it has nothing to do with it. I'm not, you know, over here moderating comments that are like, "That's an ugly outfit," because that's on point. You know,
Right.
share it. So it was. You absolutely have to do something to stand up to them, and you have to recognize that when that happens, it gets worse at first. I was cussed out. I mean, it was bad because when you stand up to your bullies, they immediately tell you you're being weak by not publishing. You know, it's like the exact opposite of what you're doing. You're standing up to them, but they went into high drive, emailing me, commenting, and I just ignored, and then after a few months, it all went away. So there's still, you know, a website. There's a website dedicated to hating bloggers, and every blogger has like their own forum. And mine's like, at least it used to be. I've literally not looked at it in like 3 years.
Yeah, it's
was
a
like
good idea.
no, I mean, why would I? It's like all completely made up stuff like that. But I'm sure that that's still active because people will occasionally email me and be like, "Did you know this exists?" And I'm like, "Yes," but I, you know, happily oblivious to it.
Yeah.
But as far as my site goes, it's gone. And it is the most amazing feeling, you know, but it also is an internal thing because I know when that does happen, because I'll still occasionally get the random slap in the face, you know, weird comment, but I moderate so then I don't publish it and it never gets seen, which is amazing. But then people also don't know what I experience because they never see it, you know, but I figure no one wants to read that. My readers don't want to see that nasty stuff on there. So, but I get the occasional, you know, slap in the face, and it's been an internal growth of the way you respond to that, and feeling like I feel like I've been given, you know, through prayer and things like that, a way to just immediately see the hurting person that's speaking to me, and instead of reacting with anger, you just react with, you know, just softly, gently, you know, a little bit of, and not in like a like you're looking down on them at all, because that's the wrong response too, but just understanding it, because I went through the same thing. So I had so many people bullying me that I had a hard time being nice to people around me too. I would snap at people. It was like I was a totally different person. So I usually just immediately assume that that's what they're hearing in their life all the time, and it just sucks, you know. I just feel like I'm so sorry, you know, and please don't talk to me like that, but I'm also not going to get mad about it anymore. So, yeah, it's been a pretty crazy journey for sure.
Crazy journey.
Yeah, and who knew? You're like, this girl's posting outfits. Why wouldn't, you know, no.
It bring the wrath of rage.
Why would trash bring the wrath of rage? I have no idea, but it does. You know, it really does. It's, I think it's like Murphy's Law. It's like new Murphy's Law with social media. It's like, put yourself out there, someone's not going to like it. And they're going to play dirty too, so.
So the landscape has changed radically since you launched your blog and your brand, right? What would you say to someone that's looking to launch now?
That just sounds exhausting. Because it's been 6 years of like such hard work.
Should think about now, do you think, if you're coming out with, want to be a
Gosh.
content provider, want to create?
I would say there's so much competition now, which I don't know if, blogs are not really competition, but there's so many people doing it now that it's even more important to do something that's new if you can. So often people will start a blog and they'll emulate whatever it is that they love about their favorite blog, which I totally understand. But when I started, I mean, I literally was doing something I had never seen anybody do before. And that was the point. You know, it was like, don't try to reinvent Kleenex and invent a totally different product that doesn't exist. So I think that's even more important now. And there are so many little niches out there that you could find that, you know, thing that for you is the thing, and go with that. And you can be, you know, I kind of consider myself to be maybe not huge overall, like we touched on in the beginning. I'm not like the world's biggest blogger, but in my niche, I'm doing really well. And that's what's important. You know what I mean? Like, is like hone in on that and be a leader in that area. And sometimes that's easier too than trying to like take on the whole world and not having like a really strong messaging point to like a fashion blog, for example, you know?
Yeah. What would be what's your, do you have spiritual practices that keep you?
Yeah, I mean, church, the Bible. I mean, this has been, I feel like it's second nature.
Just your life.
I grew up with it, yeah.
I know you also do yoga, though. Do you do, like,
I
do
do.
you walk?
I
Do you
haven't
do
gone in like a
anything
year,
else?
Pam.
Really?
You know why? Because my favorite yoga studio is too far away after we moved. I mean, it is like really far away.
And no practicing at home.
No, I've never tried that. I like hot yoga too much.
Yeah.
I'd have to like develop a little sauna room in my house or
Get
something.
Joshua
I was
on
like,
that.
or I guess I could do it in the middle of the summer in Florida.
Hey, it is hot
mean,
yoga, right?
I might pass out, but
Yeah. As we wrap up, if you had a person that was sitting on the fence about going after their dream
Yes.
or doing what they love, what would your advice be to them?
absolutely do it. Like, why not? You know, you got to at least try it. And if your brain instantly says, no, I'm too scared, then look for a bridge job. I'm sure you're aware, you know, talked about this before, but a bridge job will help you like just pay those bills, but like doesn't take up too much of your time, so you can really focus on what you love, which is kind of how I did it in the beginning too. I had like a little bridge job that first year.
Yeah.
So
where can we find you, and what's next for you?
what's next is top secret.
Okay.
I'm
top
just joking.
Secret, so we'll follow you.
No, you will. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. No, there's something exciting coming up, but it's a little ways away, so I don't want to spoil it. But you can find me at jseverydayfashion.com, which is jseverydayfashion.com.
Facebook,
It's
Instagram,
the same, all everywhere.
And if we want to
Everyday Fashion, everywhere.
get on your email, just go to your blog.
Yeah. Yep. There's a contact form there. So, like I said, I love it when it's a two-way street. I want to hear other people's stories too.
Okay, well, I want to get on this better budget for clothing, so
Do
I'm going to
it.
be watching more carefully.
Please do.
And I'm going to be watching for
hope-
the top secret.
I know. I
release.
hope. Oh yeah, that too.
Thanks for coming and sharing
Thanks
your
for
story.
having me. Awesome.